Good afternoon, everyone. Buena tarde, buenas tardes. Welcome to a new session, a very interesting one, Strategic and Innovative Management of Key Urban Services. My name is Mila Gascó, and I will be the moderator of this interesting session and these interesting panelists. What are we going to do today here in this session? The idea is to talk about urban public services. What we have in mind is we recognize that mostly conceptual theories have given way to a reformulation of how public services are delivered. And we are nowadays talking about open public services, innovative public services, technological public services, collaborative public services. In sum, we are adding lots of adjectives to the new way of delivering public services. And what we really want to know now is how these different cities, companies, experts are dealing with these new public services, with these new collaborative and innovative public services. So this is the main theme and the main topic of this afternoon's session. We have 6 panelists. Let me introduce them to you. The first one is Mrs. Lisa Trickett from the Birmingham City Council. She is the cabinet member for sustainability. We have Mr. Huann-Shiuh Shy. I practiced before. He comes from Taiwan, and he's the Deputy Executive Secretary of the Committee of Communications, Industry and Development. We have Mr. Karsten Brosta. He is from the Free and Hanseatic City of Hamburg, and he is the Commissioner for Media, Head of Digital City Steering Center. Mr. Giacomo Parenti from the Municipality of Florence. He is the City Manager of Florence. We have Mr. Eduardo Fernandez. He is from Urbacer. He is the Research and Development Innovation and Urban Sustainability Manager. And finally, we have Mr. Carlos Vallas from the Municipality of Quito. He is the Metropolitan Director. So as you can see, very diverse profiles, which are going to be very complementary as well, and they're going to give answers to this strategic and innovative management of key urban services. I have to tell you that I gave them some homework before coming here. So in order to have sort of a common framework, I asked them to answer 3 questions in his presentations. First of all, I told them, I want to know what are the key urban services more important for you. Secondly, what are the main aspects that have to be taken into account when implementing these urban services? Finally, how can we deliver more innovative urban services and urban services, which is more important, that really make an impact, that really make a difference on citizens' life? They're going to try to answer to these 3 questions, as I said, from a different perspective. And this is all from me now. It's time to listen to the speakers, and I invite Mrs. Trickett to be the first presenter.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, and thank you, all of you, for coming. In my presentation, I could wax lyrical about intelligent transport systems. I could wax lyrical about open data, big data. I could even talk about how we've actually moved to develop sensors in our bins, on our lamps to actually detect air pollution. But I think when I was given the question as to what was the key urban services, and as a politician, I actually felt it was possibly important that I actually reflected more on the context, and the context in which we're currently operating and trying to develop smart approaches. I come from a very large, complex city. We're one of the largest cities in Europe. We are facing massive budget cuts. We run a budget of 3 billion. I have to take £250 million out of that budget in the next 2 years, on top of the 600 million I've already taken out. 2/3 of our money comes directly from government. We have very little flexibility on how we can raise things. At this point in time, we also have a very different demographic profile. We're one of the youngest, most diverse cities. We also have huge inbuilt need in terms of an ageing population living in certain parts of the city. And after the terrible circumstances of the weekend, we are also a city that has terrorism within, and a thing for us is that our diversity is something we celebrate. It's also a challenge that we now have to respect and actually understand how we can better manage our difference. And for us, it's not a case just of deprivation. I represent one of the most affluent wards and one of the poorest neighbourhoods. And actually, of late, it is from more affluent areas that we are finding some of the radicalisation develop through. So for us, very much, the way that we shape our future and our future services is how we actually address our city and ensure it's more cohesive and more successful for all. I've got an image there of the new Library of Birmingham. People are very proud of the Library of Birmingham. It's meant to be a very beautiful building. What actually I think that actually shows for us is some of the changing context that we're operating in. The hotel in the right-hand corner is the Hyatt Hotel, first five-star hotel to come into Birmingham. Came into Birmingham in the late 80s, very much part of our city centre renaissance, very much the whole model that we've taken forward in Europe for the last 20 years. The new library was built post-crash, and actually what we have with the new library is the changing era, the era where we need to build on technology, we need to build on digital, and we need to actually understand that it's not buildings, but it's actually in people that our success and our future lies. And I think sometimes that is one of our challenges, that when we talk about our smart cities, our smart approaches, we sometimes forget why we're doing what we're doing. And when I was asked what's a success factor, my biggest advice to any company, anyone who's developing policy, is be very sure you know why you're doing it. Too often we seem to grasp the new technology, the new innovation, without truly understanding how we shape it for a real and meaningful outcome for our citizens. Unless it's real and relevant to the citizens who are experiencing day in, day out, the cuts, the impact of austerity, then actually it does not have relevance. And for us as politicians, it does not necessarily have value. Again, I love this picture because I used to lecture on leadership of place, and this is one where how we have to actually understand that to be a good leader, you have to have followers. And at times I think as well, the technological revolution actually doesn't always take on board its followers. And actually there's an assumption that people wish to embrace when actually the challenges can be there. And there's an assumption that we all share knowledge. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. And what really surprises me is how in that 3-year age gap, my 11-year-old's grasp, and she can have a smartphone, her iPad, and she can still be playing Civilization on her laptop, and she's communicating on every channel. A daughter 3 years older uses Facebook, uses Instagram, but not the level of Snapchatting that my 11-year-old seeks. And my 11-year-old seeks solutions now. She wants everything now. And I think, again, as public servants and public services, we need to understand that is a context that people judge us within. That slide is basically to show you that in the way that we are developing our approaches in Birmingham and our public services, and you have to remember, as a city council, I am responsible from anything from dog poo to land use planning. We have a broad range of services within UK government at this point in time. What I think that does show to me, importantly, is we have been very clear that our smart city approaches are the wrapper around a whole series of other interventions. They are not the outcome we're achieving. And unless we engage with our citizens and broker a deal with our citizens where they shape the new approaches, we won't succeed. So I started my presentation on an example of the cuts that we're facing. So massive wholesale change to local government and local government finance. What you quickly realise when you're taking out money out of public services in such a short period, you can't carry on as before. What you also can't do is pretend you're starting with a clean slate. Again, I think the approaches we've had to business improvement over the last couple of decades sometimes assumes it's all nice and clean, but the complexities of interrelated contracts, people daring to have a view about the kind of services they would want and what happens to their bodies, it sometimes gets in the way of the project initiation document. We have to actually have whole person, whole place, whole system. And that is what we're doing at this point in time in Birmingham. We're trying to understand and work with partners on where our future city is going to be, recognizing some of those challenges I referenced at the very start, that we have much to celebrate, but we have to overcome some of our barriers, and to actually understand it in a system basis. The image is possibly not totally visible here, but that is our high-speed 2 railway station, a massive investment from government that will be pumping millions into putting large rail tracks through. 3 years ago, when this was first talked about, nobody had thought about the fact it was going to go through some of our most deprived communities, and how were we going to connect? How were we going to create permeability? How were we going to ensure that investment made a difference? We've worked with the Future Cities Catapult in recent months, and what we're now doing is we're matching that big city scale investment with a whole series of localized projects that look at a place in a systematic way. So we're looking at issues around cycling, issues about the parks that can be used in the area, issues about how the digital can connect through. And to me, this is our whole place, whole system. The other areas that we are then trying to use sort of digital approaches is about reducing demand. We can't meet the demand that we actually have in place. So actually using data to better understand how we actually prevent the older person who constantly goes to the GP, because actually they're not really that ill. It's actually because they're very lonely, and actually trying to link that through. So we're doing much more on our cross-cutting data. We're also understanding historically we have an issue that we have private good, public bad, or public good, private bad. We're understanding about the importance of the mixed economy and respecting the respective strengths of different sectors. And an important one for me is I think we're understanding that there's no one correct spatial scale in which to deliver a policy or a public service. You have to understand adjacency, displacement across the piece. Finally, we've tried to establish some broad-based outcomes for targeting our resources, through which we will now shape our smart approaches. So we've established an outcome, and smart will be actually about getting to those outcomes, not smart being the outcome itself. And the overall one is we do what we do to improve the quality of lives of our citizens. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shy from Taiwan. It's my great honor to be here to share some smart city experience in Taiwan. Just take a little about Taiwan. Several hundred years ago, Portuguese people called Taiwan the Formosa. It means the beautiful island. And the population of Taiwan is 23 million. And comparison with Catalonia is just 7.5 million. It's 3 times. And the area comparison with Catalonia and Taiwan just the same. So Taiwan is more crowded 3 times than Catalonia. So we need a more smarter city to use our resources. At a glance with Taiwan, when you use the PC notebook, majority of them is made by Taiwan. And we also have a good agriculture to have vegetable and fruit. So Taiwan is a very good food. So welcome to Taiwan to eat more. Our PPP model now in Taiwan, we have a model to do the PPP. the first is the private sector. If they want to provide their service to the local government, provide their service to the local government, they can cooperate with the local government. And they will together to apply the project from the central government. So after the evaluation and the KPI, central government will matching the fund up to 50%. Just take a little example for you. The right-hand side, for the government, generally we have two types. One is centralized, and the other is distributed. The Tainan city, they want to centralize their all information, all about the traffic information, bus information, parking information, and the home care information, hospital information, school information. They all together to let their city more better. And the other type is the Taoyuan city. It's an industrial city in Taipei, in Taiwan. And the Taoyuan city government, they want to service their citizens much more. So they invest a lot of ICT technology to let the first officer, we call the village chief, to provide the service to their citizens, and also can accept the need and request from the citizen. So these two types can occur in Taiwan. So any city they want to centralize or distributionize, they can bench these two cities. Next one, as we know, the Wi-Fi is very important. So if you arrive Taiwan, the first you will reach the airport. And next year, we have a new MRT from airport to the Taipei city. So you can enjoy the Wi-Fi all the way to the city. And as you know, the traffic information is very important. Till last year, we just can provide 1,000 kilometer information. But after this project, 2 years, we have the 5,000 kilometer information can provide to our customer. And some government, they want to management more safety drive environment. So they want to have a special car management. So it's also very important. And we also have an ETC, electronic toll collector. Within 10 months, they built 319 gates to take this toll collector. So at this moment, we don't need a toll collector. We can collect the toll fee. And the accuracy for the ETC is 99.99%. As you know, the big city have bicycle sharing. Taipei also have. Now we have 5,000 bicycle in service, and every day they have 70,000 trip, and total turnover rate per bicycle is 12. Comparison with Berlin, London, they are just 4 to 5. It's just 2 or 3 times. Not only can get the smart city, we also want to help the young men to use smart city project to have a new startup. So young men back to their hometown to do some agricultural work. They produce their vegetable and fruit by way of 4G process and platform. They can selling their product to all over Taiwan, even all over the world. So we hope end of this project we have 100 staff and 150 new farmer in this project. So we also have a city, because the smart city is very important. But don't forget, you must care about the aging people, disabled people, and the pregnant women. So the friendly city is very important. If you have interest for this topic, please go to the SO 17 tomorrow afternoon. Dr. Lin will give more detail. So not we till now is a 3-year project. We totally get the 40 project application, and now we grant 25 cases for this project. And why Taiwan have this capability is Taiwan is very strong in ICT hardware. So you use the PC template, it's by Taiwan. And the network environment is also good. So just an example for efficiency for Taiwan. Just 1 second, we can provide 4 Wi-Fi related products. And just 11 seconds, we can produce 1 server in the world. So we have a good infrastructure from E-Taiwan, M-Taiwan, and I-Taiwan. So we can do a lot of smart city. So we are also the good ranking in the world competition. So Taiwan have a Taichung City and Taipei City, we get ICF top 1 in the world. So my office, we design the PPP model and promote this model and the incubation these cases. And we also monitor the actually event. So I want to show a little
In 1900, only 13% of the human population lived in urban areas. But by 2050, up to 70% of the human population will be living in cities, making the role of cities ever more significant. With the rapid growth of the economy, the rise of smart handheld devices and wireless broadband technology, and with the increasing needs for green energy and sustainable development, the smart city is to become the future of urban development. Building a smart city thus requires integration between various software and hardware ICT businesses to become its primary facilitator. Since 1979, Taiwan has begun its foundations in the field of ICT with support from governmental policies. For 30 years, Taiwanese ICT companies have integrated vertically and horizontally to provide the most comprehensive series of services and to play an important role in the ICT industry in the world today. Combining concepts of energy conservation and green energy, Taiwanese ICT companies are changing the lives of citizens in areas such as transportation, energy conservation, building, healthcare, education, and retail. Taiwan's strength in ICT will bring forth a brand new face for the smart city.
Yeah, thank you for your listening. If you have interest for my presentation, you can take picture for this QR code. I think you can download by slides. Or if you have no time, I will prepare some paper. After the session, you can call me. I will give you the QR code. Thank you very much.
I think it's Castro. Ah, es verdad. Pues es que no veo nada desde detrás. Karsten, can you please invite people from the back to sit right here if they want to? I think
here in the
can't
front,
hear
you can sit down and enjoy the talks even more when you listen to us while being seated.
Es que no veo nada con estas luces que te dan aquí.
Okay, there we go. Yes, I also very much like the opportunity to speak to you after these two impressive presentations that we already have. I'd like to share with you the perspective that we developed in Hamburg, in Germany, on the issues that were just so basically touched upon already. I think when we are talking about what is ahead of us, we are talking about the term of the digital city, actually, because being, well, maybe a little bullish, we were saying a city that is 700 or 800 years old had to be smart already in the past. That can't be the thing that is new about it, because we weren't there if we weren't smart. The thing that is new is that we have to deal with a technologically induced disruption, and this disruption is the connectivity and the massive increase in digital capacities that we witness throughout our cities. And what we need to do, especially in an old and successful, long-time successful city, is we have to deal with a way of dealing with disruption in a transformative way. Because if we take disruption as being one of the paradigms of digitization in our times, disruption means that those who were successful under the old circumstances are the ones that are most likely to vanish under new market circumstances. It's an economic theory framework at that point, and of course one that is not very nice to look at for older cities that are right in the midst of this transformation. So we really need to tackle some of the issues early on in order to transform fast enough to use and adapt to the new possibilities, and in the end to make more efficient use of our resources and to enhance the quality of the lives of our citizens and also of the business opportunities of our companies. If we look at the digital technology, we basically witnessed three waves of digitization. The first one hit information and communication, and basically the media at the first place and everything that was built around public communication in our societies. The second one hit logistics and production processes. This is what in Germany is widely discussed under the headline of Industry 4.0, and it's basically about the smart factory. It's in Hamburg, it's about the smart port, the way that we connect all the different dots in our port within the city. And now in the third wave, we have the digitization of public infrastructure and public space. And this is a discussion that is closely interlinked with what we discuss now as smart cities, as digital cities, the implementation of sensors, of connectivity devices all throughout our infrastructure in cities. And these are the three waves that we want to make use at and that we want to use in order to make Hamburg more efficient and a better place to live. This is to give you just a couple of ideas about what Hamburg is. Hamburg is not just a city, it's also a state within the federal framework of Germany. So we combine 2 or 3 layers of government, which is quite important when we come to the steering of these processes, because we have ministries and not just municipal agencies, and they are, of course, tend to be a little more independent, and you need to steer them in a different way, you need to coordinate them in a different way. But this gives us, on the other hand, also a greater chance to actually change a framework and set a framework, because we have another level of legislation, of executive power that we can put behind these issues. Why this is so important, I mentioned one, it is the port. We have a port right in the middle of our city, not just somewhere outside, right in the middle. It has a certain space. We manage 9 million containers a year there at the moment. We know we have estimates that go up to 20 million in the next 1 or 2 decades. And we know that if we want to manage this increase, we can only do so by being more efficient. There is no space that we can use. We just have to be more efficient on the same space. And this, for example, means that concerning traffic and other options, we really need to make sure that we manage traffic in a way that there is no car, no truck, no train standing somewhere on this port at any time. They have to move in, they have to carry the goods, and have to move out. Every space consumed otherwise is a problem. And of course, one thing that is important to us, since we are competing to host the Olympic Games in 2024, we also see some of the, of course we saw what has happened and done in Barcelona, and also we think that we can have a same boost there, and it's a task that we want to take upon in order to really modernize our city. We were asked for the 3 main objectives for cities. I think the main objective number 1 is to improve the quality of our government services on the interface to our citizens when they want to have a government service. I drove the tube 2 weeks ago, and I saw somebody right next to me buying a sofa on their mobile phone and really completing the transaction and paying 1,200 euros for a sofa on the train. And this is the kind of environment that we need to deal with, that our citizens want to get our services as well. They don't want to go to an office, fill out forms on paper, be sent home, come back 3 weeks later, we tell them you missed out a form or you took the wrong one, come back 3 weeks later, and then finally they get the answer that we cannot deliver the service. We want to do this seamlessly digital. And so we are working on a digital first strategy there in order to provide our government services in a completely digital way and first design them digitally and then adapt them in an analog way there. The second main objective is I mentioned it, the entire public infrastructure. 3 out of 10 major European traffic routes cross Hamburg. So we have a huge topic there with traffic, and we need to manage traffic in a way that it is still floating and not just standing in the city. And that is one thing that we can use digital devices, technological devices in a much smarter way than we used in the past, and we are keen on trying out things in the harbor, in the port, and then export them into the city and use them there as well. Those are services like smart parking as well. Those is the question of steering of traffic. But then there are other questions as well. We need to talk about education. We need to talk about how do we organize universities, for example, in a way that they still own what they teach and what they research. We have the tendency of huge, mostly US-American platforms combining and using the IP of research, Udacity, Coursera, and others, and that is no way that we could perceive our own universities. We want to have them there. We want them to have their own platforms. We want them to have their own options to offer their teachings in blended learning concepts online, addressing other groups than they could in the past, and those are things that we're working on as well. We have a huge project, e-culture, where we talk about how to digitize cultural heritage and culture in museums and theaters. We have an impressive project in one of the university hospitals where there is no paper anymore. In the entire process of dealing with the patient, everything is done by the computer, there's no paper. And those are the things that we're really trying to think about. I think the main objective here is that being an old European city, we have a lot of data. We have a lot of systems isolated from each other, collecting data, and the data is there. And what we need to make sure over the course of the next years is how we can connect these data knowledge that we have and how we can make a better and smarter use of what we have as a data potential there already that we don't put on the street right now. We passed a transparency law, for example, 4 years ago, reversing the entire idea of the relationship between government and the public. Now everything the government does has to be public unless the government can argue why it should be otherwise. It's not the other way around like it used to for hundreds of years. And the third objective that we have is that we want to open up innovation spaces for companies. Once you have a digitally competent city government, once you have the framework in place and the technological infrastructure in place, you can also attract companies trying out new pilots, trying to implement new services and really coming to the city and say, well, we want to try new things and we want to do this in Hamburg with you guys. And this again is something that we are really interested in because as a city-state with 1.8 million inhabitants, 5.5 million in the metropolitan area, we know that we need to embrace new technologies as business options as well as options to enhance the quality of living for our citizens. And we're really thinking that the key issue to success lies in the successful offering of convenient and usable services. We don't need the abstract meta discussions that we so often have about why is big data good or bad. Once you deliver a service that is usable, that is feasible, then you get the acceptance that you need by your citizens, and then you can make cities more livable and you can make them economically thriving. And that's what we tend to do with our digital city strategy. Thank you very much.
Good morning, good evening. I am Giacomo Parenti from municipality of Florence. Florence is the capital city of the Italian region of Tuscany. Florence is famous in the world for its history. Florence was built in the site of an Etruscan settlement. Florence is considered the birthplace of the Renaissance. Florence was the capital of Kingdom of Italy from the 1865 to 1871. The municipal area of Florence extends over 102 square kilometers. Florence has 3,078 inhabitants, but it has 60,000 daily city users. The key urban service for the city of Florence are those allowing a better quality of life for city users, a better experience of a city for tourists, and so a greater opportunity to make business for local and external small, medium enterprises and large companies. These urban services are being developed in Florence through three main pillars: smart mobility, data and digital continents, digital agenda, e-government. Smart mobility. In Florence, there are the tramway lines. Tramway line system 1 working, 2 under construction, 2 under designed, 1 under feasibility. In Florence, a wide diffusion of free car sharing operators, including 1 electric only, bike and scooter sharing to be launched soon. More than 200 electric charging stations integrated for citizens and for municipality electric car recharge, interoperable with different and multiple power supply vendors. In Florence, there are 100 electric taxis. In the historical center of Florence, there are 250 electric bus. The municipality of Florence have 250 electric public vehicles. In Florence, there are 600 electric car sharing and 200 electric vehicle sharing go. For the smart mobilities, I think it's very important improve performance management of mobility. There is a traffic supervisor. The traffic supervisor managing all the city traffic lights and collecting sensor data. In Florence, there is a network of 150 video cameras to sense traffic and monitor security in the city. It's very important to simplify life for moving city users. Service to simplify life for moving city user is, for example, bus to be paid through SMS, parking apps to be launched in a few weeks. In Florence, there is a free Wi-Fi on the tram lines and soon in the buses. In Florence, there is the bus stop signs. The second pillar is data and digital continent. Data and digital continents spread over the city. The city is among the largest data openers in Italy since 2011, with more 1,200 100 open dataset. We are just opening even real-time mobility sensor open data, and we had years of experiences in engagement with citizens, high school, university students, local and Italian, small, medium enterprises. We are also spreading digital contents through the city with a network of more than 40 digital signage and several tourism apps. In Florence, our app showcase list 25 mobile apps to be offered to citizens and tourists to better live and experience the city and the beauty of Florence. The last year in Florence, the service card was 100,000. The service card is for tourists, called Firenze card, and is an integrated service card for bus up-on, off, museum entries without lines, and unlimited public Wi-Fi usage. The third pillar is digital agenda and e-government. Florence has now a decennial experience in offering a government service to the citizen. A wide shared service center is offering a government service to more than 30,000 digital ID registered residents in the whole metropolitan areas. The last year, about 12 million of euros online transactions are being held within our metropolitan service center. In Florence, there is a network of more than 1,400 public free Wi-Fi hotspots, allows for free no login usage on the web. Florence is a digital city. I think no smart city is feasible is in a city where each utility, each government level, each public service provider is offering services without sharing its main digital assets with others. Multiple digital IDs, multiple vertical data silos not integrated with each other, multiple different networks not being interconnected. Florence is working hard to build a citywide partnership among public service providers called Firenze Digitale. Water management, garbage collection, local transport, local parking management, lighting and energy utilities, municipality, region, commerce board, university, to share digital assets such as digital ID, public Wi-Fi network, fiber optic network, residence data to open platform. I think Florence Digitale is low cost and bottom-up, in the sense that it does not require millions of euros platform or project, but it's simple ask to each public service provider to invest the same money already in budget in a converging city-wide vision. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Buenas tardes a todos. Gracias por la oportunidad de exponer las ideas que desde una empresa privada se tiene sobre el concepto de Smart City y en concreto sobre uno de los servicios urbanos fundamentales, que es la gestión de residuos. Por lo que he visto en las ponencias anteriores, mi ponencia va a ser mucho más práctica, orientada hacia los problemas reales que se encuentra un explotador de un servicio en el momento en que tiene que llevar adelante esta tarea. Voy a hacer una presentación en la cual explicaré inicialmente cuáles son, o una parte de estos servicios clave para los ciudadanos, por qué son, y luego algunos ejemplos de las innovaciones que se están haciendo en este momento o que se están llevando adelante. Y al final, pues claro, habrá unas conclusiones. En primer lugar, lo que quiero resaltar es que estamos hablando de unos servicios muy concretos que afectan a los ciudadanos desde varios puntos de vista, como ahora veremos. Pero estamos hablando de la recogida y limpieza de residuos, de la gestión de zonas verdes, gestión del agua, ahorro y eficiencia energética. Y solo quiero resaltar una cosa aquí, y es que es fundamental cuando hablamos de la gestión de residuos abarcar el ciclo completo con el concepto de economía circular. Es decir, no vale de nada recoger o limpiar muy bien una calle si después no la tratamos adecuadamente y acaba en un vertedero. ¿Por qué son claves estos servicios? Bueno, aquí tenemos los datos de Eurostat a nivel europeo. Vemos que la crisis económica, un indicador clarísimo ha sido la reducción de gestión de residuos. Vemos cómo desde el 2003 ha ido bajando tanto en España como en Europa. Pero lo que sí quiero resaltar es que las cantidades que se generan, en este caso aquí hay casi 450 kilos por habitante y año, son los que tenemos de la última estadística del 2013, pero si vemos a nivel europeo, lo que sí parece evidente, y los datos están ahí, es que cuando una sociedad se hace más rica o tiene más nivel de vida, lo que suele inexorablemente suceder es que se generan más residuos, ¿no? Esto lo que quiero hacer ver es que son un problema que tenemos ahí, pero ya no solo por la generación, sino que todos sabemos lo que pasa en nuestras ciudades en el momento en que se deja de prestar ese servicio. 3 días de una huelga o de una no prestación de un servicio lleva implícito problemas ambientales y de salud que automáticamente todos como ciudadanos reclamamos que se nos solucione. Pero también tenemos otro factor, estos son todos datos reales y estadísticos, y es que desde el punto de vista económico, a nivel de España, una media de las municipalidades es que en torno al 10%, 10 o 20 depende, de sus presupuestos se dedican a actividades ambientales. Y dentro de esa actividad ambiental que recoge todos los servicios, aproximadamente un 40% se destina a lo que es la gestión de los residuos, tanto la recogida como el tratamiento. Por estas razones pensamos que es un sector que hay que atender y que es un factor clave tanto para los ciudadanos como para las propias administraciones. Cuando hablamos de innovaciones, yo solo quiero poner aquí una idea muy clara. Lo venimos manifestando, el concepto Smart City es muy amplio, las ciudades por sí no son inteligentes, sino que son las personas, y lo único que hay que tener en cuenta es que para esta clase de servicios debemos dar para cada una de ellas una solución específica. Aquí he puesto referencias para que veamos las diferencias que hay de urbanismo entre unas ciudades y otras, el diferente uso que se hace de ese espacio. No es lo mismo una actividad industrial que una actividad comercial, que una actividad de ciudadanos, y todo eso implica una modificación en los residuos que se generan. Y la otra cuestión importante antes de hablar de las innovaciones es entender el flujo de los residuos, porque aquí hay una decisión que muchas veces los explotadores o las empresas podemos ser la herramienta pero las decisiones se tienen que tomar a otro nivel. En una ciudad normal, los problemas fundamentales con las actividades normales que se prestan son la limpieza de las calles, que tienen que estar limpias, y la recogida de los residuos. Ahora mismo, a nivel europeo, y en España en concreto, tenemos una gran discusión sobre cuántos son los números de contenedores más adecuados para recoger. ¿Son 4? ¿Son 5? ¿Son 8? Nosotros tenemos muchas experiencias internacionales y la gama es altísima, pero es un tema que hay que decidir. Esto se resume básicamente en un concepto. Las administraciones y los ciudadanos tenemos que pensar si es mejor invertir en recoger previamente, seleccionar, o bien invertir en las plantas de tratamiento gastando menos en la recogida. Esto, como digo, es un debate político, un debate en que todos debemos participar, pero todavía no está claro. Y eso nos va a condicionar la aplicación de estos servicios. Después podremos hablar de la tecnología, pero primero tendremos que ver el modelo que deseamos. Una vez que tengamos eso claro, vendrá el sistema de recogido. Aquí lo fundamental, como ya han puesto ejemplos anteriormente, es qué tipo de movilidad queremos. Las empresas hoy en día técnicamente podemos ofrecer vehículos híbridos, eléctricos, diésel, lo que demande la sociedad, ¿no? No es un problema técnico, es un problema más de decisión o de presupuesto. Y como he dicho anteriormente, lo importante es que al final esto se gestione adecuadamente. Y para esto hay muchísimas tecnologías que también son modelos a decidir entre todos. Es decir, podemos ir desde soluciones más baratas a unas soluciones más costosas con unas mejoras. Pero lo importante es que los ciudadanos sepamos primero lo que queremos y luego lo que cuesta. Ejemplos de innovaciones que hemos hecho en la actividad de gestión de residuos, vuelvo a repetir, lo fundamental ahora mismo es que tiene que haber una colaboración y una participación ciudadana. Nosotros hemos hecho varias experiencias y al final lo que hemos demostrado es que lo que demuestra la realidad es que el ciudadano está dispuesto a hacer un esfuerzo por la adecuada gestión de los residuos siempre que se le reconozca. Entonces, una manera o de las maneras más eficaces de reconocerlo es a través de un incentivo económico, como es este caso, que lo que se hace es reducir su tasa de basura. Si usted es un buen ciudadano o ayuda a la gestión, tendrá que tener una recompensa. Si no, pues tendrá una sanción, la política del payo y la zanahoria. Luego, innovaciones. Aquí pongo esta fotografía en la cual esta es un desarrollo hecho que no hay que pensar cuando hacemos innovación en grandes tecnologías ni grandes informáticas. Esto es una adaptación de la recogida de un servicio, concretamente en Madrid. Esto es de la Fiesta del Orgullo Gay de hace 3 meses. Y esta máquina está diseñada por los propios operarios, que son los que trabajan en su sector, ahora mismo está patentada, y lo que nos ha permitido es lo que antes se recogía en X tiempo, ahora se recoge en la mitad. Con los mismos equipos y mismos recursos somos más eficientes. Eso es lo que nosotros entendemos como SMART. Desde el punto de vista de la recogida, pues lo que he dicho anteriormente, lo importante será discutir el modelo de utilidad. Y como he dicho, pues no de utilidad, sino de movilidad. El tipo de vehículo o el tipo de combustible que queremos añadir a ese vehículo. Y, por supuesto, la otra cosa importante en la recogida es tener un buen sistema de indicadores de calidad. No tanto la herramienta, que hay muchas, sino cuáles son los que realmente consideramos importantes para los ciudadanos. Y por último voy a poner un ejemplo en la parte de tratamiento, que es, se ha hecho una experiencia en Cantabria, aquí en España, como ejemplo concreto, en lo que hemos conseguido en una instalación de tratamiento de residuos, recuperar con una inversión de 1 millón de euros 6.000 toneladas de vidrio al año que que se vende al sistema integrado de gestión. Estas 6.000 toneladas es la misma cantidad que se recoge en toda Santander durante el año, con el sistema de ecovidrio. Entonces, este es un ejemplo claro de que cuánto cuesta tener X contenedores en la calle frente a una inversión que a lo mejor hay que hacer en la planta. No es que esté claro, es un ejemplo que estamos haciendo, lo mismo estamos haciendo con otros residuos, para dar datos para tomar el modelo que se quiere. Desde el punto de vista para llevar adelante una mejor gestión en los residuos y a su vez el concepto SMART, lo primero y fundamental es la concienciación y participación ciudadana, como ya he dicho anteriormente. El otro tema importantísimo es modificar el marco legislativo actual, tanto desde el punto de vista de la contratación como desde el punto de vista de la fiscalidad. En el primer caso habrá que ir a soluciones más flexibles, más largas de plazo y con una mayor integración. Y en el caso de la política fiscal, aplicar el principio del que más contamine, pues más pague. Por otro lado, este sector está implicado en la aplicación de las tecnologías para mejorar sus servicios, pero lo que tenemos que conseguir son 2 cosas. Ver la viabilidad económica de esa información y luego que sea fácil de aplicar, que es lo que nos demandan los ciudadanos. Como conclusión es decir que el sector de la gestión de residuos lleva 5 años participando en el concepto SMART en esta feria y está progresando con diferentes tecnologías que pueden ver en la feria. Hay una mayor sensibilidad a llevar esto adelante. Es fundamental la colaboración ciudadana. Y, por último, decir que todo esto lo que persigue es lo que he dicho anteriormente. No se trata de hacer más con menos, sino el objetivo es hacer más con los mismos recursos.
Muchas gracias, Eduardo. Thank you. Carlos.
Wow.
Okay. Well, the presentation gets started. I'll introduce myself. My name is Charlie. I represent the city of Quito, and I'm going to talk to you today about the Quito Innovation Lab. We started our innovation lab about 3-4 months ago, and our idea is that innovation has to be disruptive. There are two kinds of innovation. The first one is gradual innovation that you see every single day in every single service that you have. The other one is actually to be disruptive. And right now, we are living at a time where everything is disruptive. We're living in a time of change where the biggest car company in the world is Uber, and they don't own a single car. Airbnb is the biggest hotel company in the world, and they don't own a single building. So when we're talking about innovation and making it disruptive, we have to find ways that government can be disruptive and that civil services can also be disruptive. So, no sé qué pasa con la presentación. But anyway, okay, so going back to where we are. LINC, with a Q, which means Laboratorio de Innovación de Quito, Quito's Innovation Lab, has 3 main areas of innovation that we're pushing. The first one is mobility, second one is social, and the third one is urban. With mobility, we realized that as a city, we don't really need many more apps, and we don't actually need new services. We just need to improve the ones that we have, and we need to make sure that the bottom part of the pyramid, the great part of the city, are the people that actually get the service and that they use it. As a fact, for Quito, only 20% of the people in the city transport or move by their own cars, which means that all the traffic that we have is caused by only 20% of the people. So if I start developing apps and new APIs and new solutions that are heavily based in technology, I'm only going to be helping that 20%. Because when you check the social strata of the city, you realize that everything is really nice. Technology is perfect to solve our problems, but it's not the end mean. Technology and open data are very nice again, but they're only a tool. And that's what we believe in the lab. So for mobility, what we're doing is we are redesigning every single bus route in the city. We have about 250 bus routes. We are redesigning them by using open data, by using a quantified amount of metadata of seeing where people move and how they move. So we're putting bus stops where actually people are using them. And the new maps that we're going to use are going to be interactive so that people can start telling me what they need. As a government, I'm part of the municipality. I have data. I have the problems. But it doesn't make sense that I give the solutions because I don't have them. Whatever solution I give the people as a municipality, it's not going to be what they need. So we have a co-creation platform that's called Mi Quito, My Quito, which is a platform where I give people problems and I tell them, citizens of Quito, I have the data, I have the money, you tell me what I do. And as part of the municipality and the planification secretariat, which is the one I work at, I have a big compromise with the citizens to perform and execute whatever they ask for me. So the mobility thing is really cool. But again, that's a problem that everybody has, and its organic problem is going to be changing every single day. The next branch of innovation that I have is social innovation. And I think this one is one of the most important ones, because when you talk about innovation, again, technology is not the solution. It's just a mean. And when you talk about social problems, you have to realize that technology is probably not even going to be a priority for the people that you're working for. Beth Novick talked today in the morning, I don't know if you heard her, about Cotopaxi. Cotopaxi is the highest and biggest active volcano in the world, and Cotopaxi is 12 minutes away by car from Quito. Last time Cotopaxi erupted in 1850, pyroclasts ended up in Colombia. That's a country away. That's how big the problem is. So what we're doing in social innovation is we need to find low-cost and high-impact solutions for the at-risk community. Quito is a city of 3 million people. 350,000 of them, 10%, are going to be directly affected by the eruption of Cotopaxi. It's not a matter of how big is it going to be, it's just a matter of when. The eruptive process started a couple of months ago, and it can take anything from a couple of months to a year. But it's a reality I have to live with. So what we did with Beth Novick is we used her network of innovators And we looked for specialists around the world that know in food distribution, telecommunications, shelters, rainwater collection, because the fact that we just haven't had an eruption in our lifetime doesn't mean that nobody else has done it in the world. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to use what's been done somewhere else, adapt it to reality, tropicalize it, as I want to say it, and then use it. So we have people from Katrina that are helping us with rainwater collection and giving us high-tech shelters for really low-cost prices. We have people from Arabia that are helping us with telecommunications, because one of the biggest issues that we're going to have is that when the eruption comes, cell phones are not going to work, SMS are not going to work, but I have people at risk. I'm working with a company called Rubicon. We are designing an app that's based on Ushahidi, which is a platform, I believe it was made in Africa, if I'm not mistaken, for co-creation and collaboration. Again, everything has to be co-created. So what we do with this platform is we have the shelters, right? And people are going to be there. And shelter A is definitely going to have a shortage of food. We did public and private partnerships with companies from the country so that they can be linked with this platform. So if shelter A lacks medicine, one of the pharmacies that's going to be close by is going to move and give medicine to this shelter. If shelter B is lacking cushions or food, a company in the country that does cushions or food is going to move food altruistically to the site. So we're not, again, doing anything new. We're just connecting people and services. So that's our second brand innovation. And our third one is urban innovation. We have a neighborhood in Quito, in our metropolitan area, which is a classic neighborhood. It's a historic neighborhood. It's called La Alameda. La Alameda is where the Constitution was signed for the first time. It's where our independence cry was done for the first time. Nonetheless, even though it's a historic neighborhood, it's decaying, and it's decaying really fast. And to make matters a little bit more difficult, our subway system that we're building, one of the stations is right in front of the neighborhood, in the park, which means that probably the whole neighborhood is going to get gentrified. And we don't want that, because as a lab, we're really focused on our social issues. We're not really focused on just throwing technology and making sure that people use it. So what we're doing here is we are revamping the district completely, and we're going to make it a quote-unquote smart district. We're going to give people services using technology so that they stay, because we don't want people to leave the neighborhood. We don't want locals to move away. Even though they can have a a metro station, and even though they can have a really good connected transportation system, we don't want them to leave. And I think this is a key aspect, because when you think about innovation, you have to think about what people need and where they live and what are the interactions. So oh shoot, time is about up. Thank you. So when you touch the social fabric of a culture, in this case, the neighborhood culture, you start creating a link between the people and the municipality. So the divorce that usually exists is not there anymore. We're one. We're working for each other. Okay, there you go. Well, can you stay there? Thank you. Sorry, so now that it's working, this is how we envision the ecosystem of innovation in Quito. You can see in the top right corner, that's the link. That's the innovation lab. And you can see all these actors divided left and right between individuals and organizations. I think one of the really cool things about this graph is that we are including opinion leaders, because without them, you will never going to have a thriving ecosystem. And at the top of it, you see government, NGOs, and public sector. And the really cool thing is that we have to start thinking as a cluster, as a country cluster, worldwide cluster. Because if we think just as Quito and neighborhoods, we're never going to get anything done. So we're involving other governments, and we're opening innovation labs just like ours, open sourced, everything starting from furniture design, from container designing, from methodology, so that we can start having a collaborative innovation throughout the country. So I guess the last thing I want to talk about is about a grant that we did with Microsoft. Microsoft just gave us their platform, Microsoft Azure. I don't know if many of you have heard of it. It's the machine learning platform. What we want to do with this is create a predictive algorithm of civic participation. Because getting a neighborhood back to life is very nice. Helping the city in mobility is very cool as well. But at the end of the day, we want to understand how people participate, when they participate, what do they need, and start predicting their needs. We are really hoping that by the end of the year, when our grant is over, we can have this amazing algorithm where you can just start punching in variables and understanding how the city of Quito works. So I guess one of the main questions that we were given is, what are key urban services for you? And how can you say that they are effective or not? I think that as long as you're working for the people and you're one-to-one with them and you understand their needs, anything you give them is great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carlos, and all of you. Thank you for sticking to the time. You were great on that. And we have a few minutes for your comments and your questions, so I'm going to open the floor. Any questions for these speakers? I'm going to make it a little easier. I wrote many things listening to my colleagues, and I would like to sort of summarize and bring under the same framework some of the ideas, because I think that each of you gave a different perspective, taking into account what your company, Eduardo, does, or what your cities do, or the Citizen Lab in Quito. But in the end, there is a common framework there. So I want just to say a few ideas about that, and maybe that is going to encourage you to make some comments and ask some questions as well. First idea, we are talking about urban services which are by nature collaborative. Many of you, well, all of you talked about citizen involvement, and that was very clear in all your presentations. But you also talk about private sector companies' involvement. Lisa, for example, you talked about private-public partnerships. Huann, you talked about that too, and the building of the smart city, taking into account PPP. So this is, we are talking about urban services which are by nature collaborative. What's more, actually, I think it was Eduardo, you gave us one example of the co-creation or co-designing of the machinery with public servants. So it's not only about businesses, it's not only about citizens, it's also about public servants. So we are really talking about the different stakeholders, that ecosystem you were telling us about, different stakeholders out there collaborating in the public service delivery, which is very different from what we, or public administrations, used to do in the past. So that's my first idea. Second idea, public services which are very focused on outcomes. This is a word Lisa brought about, outcome, and we are used to manage public services taking into account output indicators. We want to know how many users we have. We want to know how many services we offer, how many people come into the hospital, whatever. And all of these speakers said, no, this is no longer possible. Of course, we need this information, but we really have to focus on quality of life. So do these services make a difference on citizens' quality of life? And all the examples brought here were really about services which do make a difference. Eduardo, again, he talked about waste and water management, super important with, as you said, health issues, so very important for the quality of life. Transportation, mobility, of course, super important. Environment, super important again. So you all refer to sort of the same types of services, those, as I said, that really make a difference. The Cotopaxi example as well, that has a lot of implications for the quality of life of our citizens. Third idea, technology. Technology is out there. Charlie was saying technology is only a tool, and it is true, but it is an important tool in the new way we're delivering urban services. And we don't have to forget that it is only a tool, but it is out there to use it. Lisa, I think Karsten said it as well. They focused on immediacy. You talked about your daughter or your child, and she wants to have everything at minute. You talked about this immediacy also, and how digital tools let us give this immediacy to our citizens. Digital tools are not the main, the core part of how we deliver public services, but it is true that they do make a difference, and they let us do things that were not possible in the past. And not only technology, all of you refer to data as well, and how we connect the data and how we use the data. And of course, those spaces where everything comes together, living labs or citizen labs or innovation labs, it doesn't matter the name, but those places where people, businesses, different stakeholders can get together and can really contribute to co-create, as Charlie was saying, new public services, smart public services. Some of you were using that word as well. So I have many more to say, but just these three ideas, which I think were very clear with all your examples and with all your presentations, and maybe give way to another comment or another question. As I said, we still have a couple of minutes, so please don't be shy. This is a great opportunity to have all these people here together. Any of you want to add anything to your presentations? Okay.
Okay, I'll add something quick. We are here talking about smart cities and innovation and how to focus our efforts. But I think that at the end of the day, we should think about a city as a living lab and not just focus spaces as a lab that I'm starting as innovation, because you have to empower the citizens. Once you start empowering the neighborhoods, y los barrios, and everybody else, you start getting real innovation, and you start seeing that different neighborhoods and different kind of people need different innovations. So I guess the end point for me is that the city should be a living lab. Barcelona should be a living lab, not just the focused spaces.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Some food for thought. I hope you keep thinking about all these ideas, and I'm sure I'm going to see you all around. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you. Thank you.